Hi, my name's Sean Khan. I've got a new record out on BBE, Supreme Love, A Journey Through Coltrane. This record is my take on the Coltrane sound. There'll be some arrangements of his originals, some originals themselves, and also a general vision of how I view his music and what his music has done for me. Well, Coltrane's music has been one of my greatest inspirations. I've read a lot about Coltrane, I've studied, transcribed his music. I get a really inclusive feel to his music, whereas I do feel that sometimes the jazz scene, so to speak, can be very exclusive. Coltrane's music's very inclusive. It's been a few years in the planning and in the making, and I think the record that I've made is quite a unique approach in that I've brought some of my favourite UK-based jazz musicians to this record. A couple of legends like Jim Mullen on guitar, Peter King, the great Peter King on saxophone, who actually worked with Elvin Jones and Philly Joe Jones in the 60s, and coupled with guys like Daz IQ from Bugz in the Attic, Kaidi Tatham, another guy from Bugz in the Attic, two guys that I worked with very closely over the course of my career. So that's why this record, I feel, is unique, because bringing disparate elements of the UK jazz scene, from the electronic scene to the acoustic scene, it's my take, it's my flavour, so to speak. Love Supreme is an amazing record. That's probably the first solo album that I'd heard Coltrane play on. I'd heard his stuff with Miles Davis on the Prestige stuff, and then someone handed me Love Supreme, and I started to think, whoa, this is another level of spirituality that I couldn't quite put my finger on it. It's quite esoteric, it's quite jazz language, but it's very of him, you know. It's a very personal record, and I really like that approach to making music. You know, the idea, the strong thing is to commit, and that's what my career is about, really. It's about commitment, and I admire musicians who commit. Look at some of the broken beat guys, Bugz in the Attic, Daz IQ, talked about Kaidi. I talk about Pete King, the saxophone player, who I know personally. I was able to get onto this record because of my personal friendship with him. All these guys have committed to this music. I mean, I remember the broken beat thing happening for me. Before that, I was at a crossroads because I wasn't making any money. I needed a little break, and we all need a break. I mean, we all need a break, and broken beat was my break. And I was grateful for Goya Music, Mike Slocum and Spencer at Goya Music, to introduce me before Bugz became these big broken beat icons. They introduced me to Daz, IQ and Kaidi, and I ended up working with those guys, and I haven't looked back since. You know, I've been all over the world making music, gigging, working with some great people like, you know, the Azimuth guys, Hermeto Pasquale. I've worked with a lot of the other guys, working with Bugz, For Hero, Mark Mack. You know, I've had an incredible journey, and Coltrane is always there on my shoulder. And also a little name check for my band here, the great Heidi Vogel on vocals, love Heidi singing, Andy Noble on keyboards, Laurie Lowe on drums, Dario Delecci on double bass, the great Kaidi Tatham on keyboards on some of the tracks, Daz IQ on mixdown, Will Worsley on the overall mixdown, and my very close friend Victor Starkey on mixdown. Obviously the record is a homage, an encyclopaedia of Coltrane, his Coltrane sound, but it's also looking at other artists, and that what draws me to other artists, Debussy especially, because I've read his diaries. There is and Mozart as well. If you read his diaries, there's a naivety about these guys. There's a link between all these guys' worldview, and that's essentially, that naivety is something that drives art. What I'm expressing here is that the record is very personal. I would actually say most of my records are very, very personal, because essentially I've had lots of obstacles, and if you have so many obstacles, you know that every record that you make could be your last one.
I call